Well, it's another ASIC classic. Has ASIC just been given the death sentence? Will Australia's corporate regulator, the long-standing watch poodle, be finally busted up? Or is it just politics? Our inbox has been flooded over the years, 25 years, with complaints by people who've been ripped off, dudded, defrauded, robbed, lost their life savings, watched insider traders manipulate their share prices, been outraged at accounting frauds by multinationals. And so it is that the Senate inquiry led by Senator Andrew Bragg has recommended, after more than a year, that ASIC needs to be broken up, disbanded, abolished, and a new corporate regulator put in its place. To quote Bragg, over the last 20 months, the committee has uncovered the dire state of ASIC, an organisation without transparency, few prosecutions, and a litany of cultural, structural and governance issues. Okay, so where to from here? We will get to the politics of it in a moment. Suffice to say, these are very interesting, by the way, that it is common knowledge amongst politicians and many in the corporate elite that the watch poodle is lame, that Australia is a paradise for white-collar criminals, and the regulator fails to chase anybody from the big end of town. To be fair, they occasionally do, especially if prompted. There's the bank bill rigging scandal, I think prompted by Malcolm Turnbull, probably that one, and Star City Casino directors who are under observation at the moment, but attacks on the big end of town are extremely rare. Not so small-time fraudsters who occasionally get pinged. So what's up? Why is this so? Well, here we will now unlock the secret. It's the money. Let's do what we do and follow the money. If we follow the money, we will find ASIC is a ginormous cash cow. We will find that ASIC raised $1.84 billion for the government last year, and the government gave it back $436 million to play with, to do regulation-y stuff and have meetings, to prosecute the odd granny and grandpa in Launceston who are in breach of their AFSL licence, to ping a few small-timers. Given this supreme profitability of Australia's corporate regulator, why would you go upsetting that apple cart, this money spinner? Why would you encourage this to change, to kill the golden goose? You make $1.8 billion a year and your costs are $436 million. This is like Google. It's a total monopoly which can charge what it likes, pay no tax, and return $1.4 billion to its shareholder, Jim Chalmers. Okay, you get the picture. And Google's profit margins, by the way, would be even much greater than ASIC's, and its tax avoidance is epic. But you get the picture. Spending money chasing corporate crooks costs money. So what do they do? Well, you see, and how do ASIC actually make this money? Well, they charge the world record fees to Australian businesses for registration, company searches, various corporate things. It costs $40 plus to do a corporate search for public information. If you want somebody's financial statements, you get massive late fees. If you're a small business, we've had them ourselves, if you don't get your company registered in on time, unless you're the Business Council of Australia, and you can do it year after year and get nothing because it's the Business Council of Australia. You see, they are at the big end of town, not the small end of town. It even costs $22 to find out who the directors or shareholders of a company are. $40 if you want their financial statements. This is all public information. Public information. The companies have to file by statute, and it costs those kind of figures to access that public information. Now they, the government, are there for the money. ASIC top brass even pay themselves bonuses. Did you know that? Bonuses. Done a couple of exposés on the bonuses. We're not sure what they're for. Never did find out. Waffly corporatese language in explanation, which didn't say anything. So what is the solution to this problem? If you take the view that there should not be an almost perfect impunity for big league financial crooks? What if you take the view that people should end up in jail or be prosecuted hard because they've done the wrong thing, even if they're at the big end of town in the cushy elite? What if you take the view that you need to send those messages to regulate properly? Well, the answer from ASIC really is to deliver the appearance of great activity, the perception of strength. PR, press releases saying crack down. Now, they've already taken measures to address this perception of watch poodle by appointing a guy called Joe Longo as chairman. Longo, how good is that name? It is the best name in the country. Joe Longo. Sounds like a gunslinger for Wild Bill Hickok or Billy the Kid. Actually a lawyer from Free Hills. But when you got a name like Longo, it sounds good. The problem is not just the money, ASIC's performance problem, that is. There is a cultural thing there. We used to go into lunch with the new chairman every time they appointed one. Back in the day as a finance journalist, there are cultural issues. The view internally really is that the purpose of the regulator, not from the younger ones, but from the older ones in there, is that the purpose of the regulator is to maintain stability in business and markets. This is what they are told by their associate at the big end of town. Their purpose is not to chase and prosecute crims, but it is to maintain stability. APRA and other regulators are the same, and it should be said, probably with the exception of a couple like the ATO and maybe ACCC, which is underfunded, that there are a lot of regulators in Australia, our own regulator, ACMA, that don't do much. They're just a cost centre with very little in the way of performance. But of course, people losing their life savings, that is a cost which should not have to be borne to a fraudster or a crook. So if you have a look at what they actually do, they have a lot of meetings. That's where the money goes, the budget. If you have a look at this chart here, there are 1,600 meetings last year with industry stakeholders and 1,900 the year before. Lovely meetings. How many? With people who were ripped off. How many meetings did they get? I'd say very few, unless you were politically connected. You might be able to get in the door for a meeting, but otherwise you send an email. I've lost my life savings from this fraudster. Here's the links to what they've done. This is the email trail, and you get an automated message back. Or maybe a recommendation even to pursue your matter through the courts. Pursue it through the courts even though you've just blown up your life savings to a fraudster and you have no life savings left to shower on lawyers and courts. So the reps for the big four banks and the big four consultants, PwC, EY, Deloitte and KPMG, they are mollycoddled. Nothing out of the PwC scandal done by ASIC. Nothing out of a lot of things, because these guys are at the big end of town. They are a protected species. But if you are a duddy, a victim of fraud, you just put your email in and you'll get it ignored. So it is that much of the budget is spent on reports and consultation papers and probably a few round tables. And we know this because we've sent ASIC many lay-down misères over the years, blatant breaches of the Corporations Act, and nothing's come of it. Although they must do the credit where credit's due. They did investigate Shine lawyers for their shonky accounting, grifting practices, and we're grateful for that. Doesn't happen often though. So to the politics. Given the money, given this huge golden goose, no government will want to upset a revenue stream like that. Now, Andrew Bragg is a youngish Liberal MP who wants to make a name for himself, and he has assiduously, with his committee, pointed out what everybody knows. It's not the first ASIC inquiry. I think we've had at least two in the past few years. Do Labor make him look good, though? Labor is in government. Do they make him look good? And the Libs look good by embracing the findings of this report and saying, let's bust ASIC up. Here's what we're hearing. The coalition will be divided because certain MPs, no names, do not want a stronger regulator. That might inconvenience them. But many do in the coalition, and many understand the cost imposed on businesses in Australia. And these fees and charges, and the unfairness that comes with mollycoddling the big end of town to the disadvantage of smaller business competitors. The Pauline Hanson and the One Nation people on the right, they're on side with the Bragg report. The Greens know it's a problem too, and they will likely support substantial reform. Bragg recommends one particular model. That may be the model which they don't support. We will get to that, and we'll do something on the website in coming days. But many in Labor, of course, will support this as well. But Fatima Paiman, what caucus position do they take as a collective? We'll go into the various options for a new ASIC or a non-ASIC over coming days. But what of Labor? Well, they too, they know it's bust. But there is the money. Now, to give them their due, they have shown an appetite for overhauls of public agencies. They've reformed the RBA, the Productivity Commission, and of course the AAT. So they're likely to come up with something. What is the question? Because they don't want Dutton hammering them over this. And we hear that one news outlet is working up a series on ABC bullion, the debacle there where the regulators walked away, and Albo's supposed connections to people involved in that. So it's politics, as always. Be interesting to see what they come up with there. But this will be a political football. And meanwhile, postscript, Jeff Shannon, the guy ASIC sued for the heinous crime of being a director of a company while bankrupt, or acting as a director while bankrupt, not being a director. Before the ASIC case fell apart spectacularly, amid evidence suggesting that CBA was at loggerheads with Shannon, and so that was the reason that ASIC went after him for the big end of town, for the banks against the small guy running the unhappy banking website. Anti-bank activist claims about to lob there from Shannon. It's about to lob in either the Supreme Court or the Federal Court, and it won't be pretty for CBA because we hear that it's a classic ASIC, but also that CBA was involved in taking care of an ASIC witness. Well, they did take care of an ASIC witness. It came out in court, had special meetings with somebody who agreed to testify against Jeff Shannon. But overall, we'll see what comes out there shortly. But that is a classic example. It's a classic ASIC, protecting the big guy at the expense of the ordinary guy. Please like, share, comment in the space below. Tell us what you think and support us on Patreon if you can afford it.